One of the real challenges we have as educators in distributed learning in British Columbia is that when it was introduced in British Columbia, the distributed learning model, it was based on a self-paced continuous enrollment model, which means students are enrolling throughout the year into courses, and they're moving through the content at their own pace. The challenge of that is that it's not the best model to support students' learning, in that everyone needs deadlines, they need structure, and they also need community. And having a self-paced continuous enrollment model kind of moves away from that community. It isolates the learner in ways that just by its nature, it has challenges as far as having group discussions, having collaborative activities, because students are all over the course content at different rates and different places in the content. So that means most of the communications end up being between the student, a student, and the instructor, as opposed to the community of learners that are there. So I'm looking at ways to make that challenge, to addressing that challenge. And one way of doing it is creating cohort groups within the academic year. So most students, when they register for a course, for instance, in September and October, they're hoping to finish that course by the end of June. Similarly, for students that are enrolling in February, it's often because they've done poorly in a course that they were taking in their regular enrolling school, and now need to finish a course that they're taking on in February, in January, February. They want to finish that by June as well. So you've got a longer term from September, say, to June, and a short term from January, February till June. And then finally, we get students enrolling in September, or sorry, not September, in the spring. And the spring enrollments are generally students that are enrolling courses that they're failing or not doing well in. And although they may want to finish by June, those students inevitably end up finishing either by the end of the summer or by the winter term. So they finish in say, November, December, the next academic year. So that seems to me like two natural spots to create a cohort of enrollment. And I'm going to show you how I do that and how we would track this through using the Moodle Calendar. So right now I'm logged into my course. I'm going to turn editing on. And I want to add an upcoming events block. If I can see it. Here it is, it's right at the bottom. So I have my my upcoming events block, and what it does, it just tracks things that are in the calendar. So for instance, I have the site-wide event right now about the Moodle Meet that we've all been involved in, and I put that at the site-wide so that all the participants in my entire site will see this. Although it's addressed mostly to teachers, that's what it's for. So right now, whenever I attract either global events, group events, course events, or user events, they're all going to appear in this calendar, and upcoming events will reflect what's happening in this calendar. Let me tell you a little bit about the calendar. The events key, these are just filters to turn on and off visibility. So if I wanted to hide global events, say my calendar is getting very busy and it's hard to track things, I could turn off certain events like global events, site-wide events, and just concentrate on group events and course events. But we'll just leave everything active for now. So what my goal is to use groups and groupings, and we're going to use the groups event key. We'll make group events for the different cohorts, and they'll appear in the calendar to that group as well as in the upcoming events block. Okay, so let's start out by looking at groups and groupings and how we do those. So to create a group, I'm going to go under my settings menu. I'm going to go to users. I'm going to go to groups. And on my groups menu, I'm going to create a group. Let's just call this what it is. It's the October group, or October enrollment. October enrollment. That's all I need. I don't have to put a description. I usually would. I would have put a picture here with a little bit of description because the students will see what group they're in. They might want to know a little bit about why they're in the October enrollment, particularly the students that start in September and maybe into early November. But that's what it'd be. You can put an enrollment key here. If you have self-enrollment, students can enroll themselves into this group and into the course with an enrollment key. You can add an image if you want to decorate it. But this is all I need right now is just October enrollment. This is just for demonstration practices. So I'm going to save changes. And let's make another group. And I think I said February is a good time for another enrollment. So February. You know what? I'm changing my mind here. I'm going to edit this group and call this the fall enrollment. That's a better name. And the February group, or goop, I'm going to call that winter group, winter enrollment. That way it's not designated as a particular month. And finally, the spring enrollment. Okay, I have my groups right now, and I want to add members to it. So we're just going to do this at random. You would obviously add members according to when they enrolled in your program. So I'm going to add members to the fall enrollment group. And I've got all these students and the teacher. If there were more than one teacher, I could assign different teachers to different groups. But in this case, it's the one teacher for this course. The one I'm logged in as right now, number one teacher. So let's add up to Michael Jackson, to Alvin Chipmunk to Michael Jackson in the the fall enrollment. And I'm going to go back to groups. And for the winter enrollment, I'm going to add remove members. Whoops, excuse me, I'm going to go back to groups. I was clicked on the wrong one. For the winter enrollment, I'm going to add members. And I went up to Michael Jackson. Let's do Michael Jordan to Jessica Simpson. Whoops. And I'll add those to the group. And now, finally, I'm going to go back to groups again. And for the spring enrollment, I had the two remaining members, Queen Victoria and Frank Zappa. And I'm going to go back to groups. So here's my groups. My fall enrollment, I've got 5. Oh, looks like I've got Michael Jordan in 2 groups. Well, let's take him out of this one. Now, it's interesting to remember that it's easy to have a student in more than one group. And where you might want to do that, if students are falling behind, they're in the fall enrollment, you might want to put them into the group that's starting after they started in, for instance, the winter enrollment group. And that way you can start removing them from the fall enrollment group as they start getting deadlines from the winter enrollment group, so that they're able to spend more time doing their content if they can't keep up with the fall enrollment group. Anyway, let's go. So I've got my 3 groups. And that looks good. They're evenly divided. And now the next thing you need to do is you have to go to the groupings tag. What groupings do, they allow you to take groups and assign those groups to different activities in your course, and also to do things like schedule things in the calendar for that particular grouping. So what a grouping is it's a group of groups basically, and it allows you to treat groups differently from one another. So you can have people in different groups, but within those groups, they might be in different groupings. There's a lot of things you can do with that we won't get into right now. But let's create a grouping. And I'm going to call this fall. Students don't see the name of their grouping. They see the name of their group only. I'm going to have another one called winter. And another one called spring. So there's my groupings, and what I need to do is add groups to them now. So for the fall group, I'm going to add the fall enrollment, back to groupings. And for the spring group, I'm going to add the spring enrollment, back to groupings. And finally, for the winter group, you can see there's no groups in it yet. I'm going to enroll the winter enrollment. So now, back to groupings. I have my 3 groupings with the groups that are enrolled in those groupings, and I'm able to treat these groupings differently as far as assigning things to calendar, assigning assignments, discussions, etc. Back to groups. And there's all my groups. So I'm done. So I am going to go back to my course. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to start adding some events in the calendar. So basically with events, I mostly want to add assessments. So let's just see. I'm going to actually open up this in another tab so that I'll show you why. So let's look at assessments. So the top part has no assessments, but if I look here under topic 1, these are resources. That's a resource. Well, here's a quiz. So this one, I'm going to copy. And why I did that, because if I went to open it in my new tab here, I'm going to go into my calendar and start adding group events. So again, here's the workshop that we're all doing this week that's just finishing. And I'm going to add a new event. And I'm involved as a teacher right now. So what I have as a teacher is I can add a course event, a group event, or a user event. A user event just means it's like a daytime, or you can use this for your personal use to schedule things and have those reflected in the calendar. But I want a group event. And the group, it defaults to the one I want, actually. I want the fall enrollment. And I'm just going to paste that here. What is a Java quiz? I'm going to paste it here. And now I'm going to say when it's due. And I'm going to make this due. Let's see. If I did the 28th, that's a Sunday. Let's make it due on the Monday. They're going to have this quiz on the Monday. And they're going to have it at 6 p.m. under the 24-hour clock. It's 1800 hours. And it's going to go until 29th at 6:30, which is 1900 hours. Now there's other settings you can do, but this works for me. I'm not repeating this event. It's a one-time event. I'm going to save changes. And I'm going to add a new event for my a group event for my winter enrollment. And it's going to be the same thing, but I'm going to make this happen in February. Where's February? There's February. And for this group is going to happen on a Wednesday. Same thing. It's going to be at 1800 hours, and it's going to go until gosh, when was that? I think it was a Wednesday, right? February the 1st. Oh, that's 2012. That's why. There we are. And it's going to go till 1900 hours. So this is just with one event. Now I've made no changes to the Java quiz itself. The reason why I copied the link from the page is when students click on this, they're taken right to that particular assessment. So that's why I copy it from the page. Okay, so here we go. I've got those events in there. And let's just, you can see in upcoming events, this just does the recent history, but what is Java quiz? And it's going at from 6 to 7 p.m. Now, who's going to see this? The people that are going to see this are the students that are in the fall enrollment. So let's log on as someone from the fall enrollment. So I'm going to go under my participants. And I've got fall enrollment right here. That's good. Let's go to Clark Gable. And I'm going to log in as Clark Gable. That's under my settings. Log in as. Continue. So now I can see number 1 teacher, you're logged in as Clark Gable. And this is what Clark Gable sees when he looks at the calendar. He sees the site-wide event, and he also sees this event. What is Java quiz? Coming up Monday, 29th of October, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. And if he were to click on this, it takes him to the calendar itself of the event, and he can click on it and go directly to that quiz. Great. That's exactly what I want. Now let's look at somebody from the February group. Sorry, the winter enrollment. So I'm back to myself as number 1 teacher. I'm going to go to participants. And I want to look at winter enrollment. And let's go do Jessica Simpson. That's who we'll log in as. Jessica Simpson sees nothing for October, other than this event that we're all participating in right now. So we're going to go to October. Here we are. November, December, January, February. And look what she sees. If I go we're back to the course page, I'd see that as well. But what is the January? What is Java quiz that's coming up on February 5th? She didn't see the one that came in October. She only saw the one on February 5th. I should have changed it here so you can see. Nothing in November. Nothing in December. Nothing in January. Aha! That's coming up here. So if we were in February, she would see this event. And it would be reflected here in upcoming events. Upcoming events is closer in context to the current month. So it would appear here as well. So that's basically how to do it. You'd have to go through your site, look at all the assessments, and determine when they should happen. And that way, students are given an idea of when they need to turn something in. If they don't turn it in, you could give them a 0. And we find that zeros motivate students to get assignments in. If they get it in late, that's fine. Just put it in a grade. And if they're unable to keep up with their cohort, you have the opportunity to drop them back to the cohort that will start after them, or the next, like say they're in the fall cohort, you can drop them back to the winter cohort if they can't keep up with the fall cohort, and spring cohort, and so forth. Anyways, I think this is a great way to handle the self-paced, continuous enrollment classroom. It provides an opportunity to have group discussions, collaborative activities within that group. Basically, one more little thing I want to say before I let you go is that you don't have to have students just registering in October for that fall enrollment. It can be September, October, and maybe a little bit into November that are part of that fall enrollment. And what you would do is start making things coming due in October. So students that starting in September, they've got a little bit of time to be just free floating and submitting things. They can work as fast as they like. But things start coming due in October. And when those due dates start appearing and they haven't done much and they start receiving zeros, they're going to jump in. I guarantee you. Okay, I hope that makes sense.